Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. Thank you to everyone that's been doing that. We've had some amazing guests on. I'm excited for our guest today. Jillian and I just met. She's in South Africa right now, which is super neat. She really helps with navigating change in a lot of different areas, which we'll get into on the podcast, and she's been doing her own business since 2000, so 25 years, I guess, running a business, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Welcome, and an author, so her books, all that information will obviously be in the show notes. Thanks for being on, Jillian.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much for having me. And I just love what you're doing. I love the whole sort of ethos of changing the world one individual and one story at a time. So I'm just happy to be here.
Cool. Well, let's get into your story. In saying that, so you actually started in the US and then you
Mm.
immigrated to South Africa, which is not normal. At least no one I know that has done it, my opinion. And it sounds like no one in your family we're talking about has done it. So tell us a little bit about that and like what caused that and how was it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, I definitely am abnormal as as Midwestern Americans go. So yeah, I grew up in St. Louis, and kind of was the typical like good girl, overachieving, like straight A's, wanted to do everything right, went off to university, Northwestern University, and was on track to go to law school, get, a good job, quote unquote. And something in me just started to sort of look out at the world and one, be like, okay, I want to go and explore. I want to see the world. I've always felt that way, but it kind of got stronger the older I got. And then two, I just felt like I wanted to be a part of something that mattered. Like I had this very vague feeling that like I just wanted to contribute to something that felt like it was making the world a better place. A la your podcast. So, and one of the things I talk about in the book is that oftentimes these sort of deep drivers, these deep feelings are hard to articulate to people. Like you don't always have the words and you don't always have the like elevator pitch for why you want to do what you want to do. So I had a lot of uncomfortable conversations with my parents. You can only imagine two parents in St. Louis in 1994 kind of going, you want to go where? You want to do what? And I sold it to them that I was only going to go for a little while and then I'd come back and I'd go to law school. The country was experiencing in 1994 the first democratic elections, which it now sounds like a lifetime ago, but that's when Nelson Mandela was came into power and was voted and elected president. So it was a very momentous occasion that I felt like I wanted a front row seat for. So yeah, it was very much a sort of deep gut feeling of something that I wanted to do. And the fact that I listened to that and I acted on that, I can't tell you why or how I found it in me to do that, but I did. And that just opened up the whole world for me in both literal and, other ways. So yeah, it was the start of a super fascinating journey for me working around the globe.
Wow. So how old were you when you first moved?
I was 23.
Okay, yeah, so you're really young. And do you have other siblings?
I do. I have two older sisters. As I just said to you, Angela, before we met, I was the first one in my family with a passport. Like they were honestly like, we do not understand this version of you. Um,
Where do you
and
think it came from? Like obviously an inner thing, but did you just curious, was there someone in your life, someone at school or someone you saw on TV or radio, I don't know, whatever, that you feel like inspired you to want to do that? Like it does seems kind of like just a random, especially where you went and all the things. It's like, I'm just gonna go travel to South Africa. Seems a little random. Was there anything that triggered that feeling in you?
I had from a even younger age. So I was also, I went on an exchange program in high school. So that desire to see the world was always there. And to be honest, I always had a sense of wanting to be of service to other people. I did volunteering when I was in high school and then again in college. So I always had a sense that somehow I wanted to be, helpful and contribute. Um, you know, as my father said at the time, there are lots of ways you can contribute at home. And I was like, yeah, I know. but I want to go there. Um,
Okay.
so, I was really young and I was just getting to know myself. And again, I talk a lot in the book about how sometimes when other people don't know you is when you're getting to know yourself. Like you're becoming a version of you that you can't necessarily explain, and they are just getting to kind of know and see. So, yeah, it was an interesting time as a young woman, but it instilled in me a lot of kind of faith in myself and, my own ability to back myself. And gosh, looking back now, I feel like that's kind of a superpower. Like it set me up to do a lot of things in the future that, I didn't require other people's approval in order to act. And that's a pretty important thing.
That makes sense. And then you were an exchange student. Were your sisters that too, or you're the only one that did that also?
You're realizing that I am definitely the prodigal daughter.
Adopted. I'm joking.
Yeah, no. I should have asked my mother if she had some
You're
sort
a milkman.
relationship. Right. A foreign milkman. No, I definitely, youngest, very much the traveler, the explorer. Yeah, and it took a while for, me to come back around to having a better relationship again with like my sisters who were sort of like, yeah, we don't get this. This is not something we relate to. But yeah, I was so pleased that I did it. And looking back, it was just a wonderful education and a wonderful experience in my life.
And it's cool because even though you were like way different, especially in high school, obviously your parents had to sign off to let you do the exchange program and that kind of thing. So, even though it sounds like they didn't understand you, it's similar to my parents, I feel like they at least like said, okay, like, I don't get
They
this.
did.
Sure. I
Yeah.
believe it. I believe in you. I don't understand what you're doing, but I believe in you. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. And now that I'm a parent, to two teenagers, I probably have more empathy now than I did then for, as you just describing, like sitting there and going, oh, okay, yeah, I believe in you. And that's,
That's really
I think that's an incredible gift you can give a young person and a young adult is belief in themselves and not second guessing them or trying to override them. So yeah, it was a wonderful gift that they gave me.
I think so too. And like I said, it sounds similar in that case. All my life, my parents still are like, I don't understand what you're doing sometimes, but I've never felt a lack of belief, which I think is what causes a lot of people to struggle
Yeah, yeah,
in life. They
totally.
don't believe in themselves, and a lot of it comes from, I believe, childhood, and
Yeah.
our parents saying like, I don't, not just I don't know about this, like this seems crazy, but like you can't do it. That's a different
Right.
story than just like, that's weird. I don't get you, but I know you got this, but I don't get it. Um,
Yeah.
so
No,
that's
I'm
really
with
cool
you.
that you had parents. Now, were your parents entrepreneurs at all or anything like that? Or no, really? So there's no like no risk
Not,
taking, really? Okay.
no, no,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, again,
Well, there's always the one.
there's always the
You.
one, and that was me. So yeah, I definitely broke the mold. And
That's so cool.
later on, my father, I think, started to do a few more entrepreneurial things. But yeah, I'm a very independent person. I'm happy sort of, self-leading and self-managing. And so for me, entrepreneurial work, solo work, consulting, freelancing came very naturally.
That's so cool. So then you went to South South Africa, and then what were you doing when you first got there? What did you get for a job? How did you kind of transition into what you're doing now with change? Like tell us a little bit about that and what does that all entail?
Mm. So, the story I tell my own kids is that I applied for a bunch of internships to get to go across there and, put letters in the mail, which now sounds like, some sort of weird like telegraph. It sounds, and then waited by my mailbox for the airmail envelope to come back. And I can still remember the day that I got an email, I'm programmed for now, got a letter back saying, from a human rights organization saying, yes, you can come for a 6-month internship. Um, and it was preparing for these elections. They did a lot of what they called voter education because, I mean, this was one of the things that was sort of mind boggling for me. It was like, There were people who'd never voted in their lives. There were people who just didn't even understand the concept of voting. And so, I found myself like super young getting thrown into this teaching people how to vote. And I remember being like, nobody ever taught me how to vote. I just sort of showed up and did it. But it was a fascinating, when you're 23 and in a totally new place, you kind of just say yes to everything. So I did a lot of work, and I was lucky enough on the days of the elections to actually work at one of the polling stations, to actually see people come in who were so emotional to vote for the first time. It was really kind of core memories for me as a young woman. And then I got a job with an American nonprofit that was doing work kind of trying to strengthen the human resource capacity of local nonprofits, basically charities that were trying to help people there. And that's what really sort of moved me into the world of change and trying to support people as they navigated change, because the country was going through this huge transition, and I was like, I'm not leaving. This is way too interesting. I want to be a part of this. And yeah, managed luckily to get a really good job with an American nonprofit. And that, yeah, as I said, was like training, facilitation. I ended up doing a lot of work over time around leadership and things. So I just got thrown in the deep end and, learned a lot very quickly, kind of in my 20s around, how to make change, and more importantly for me at this stage, like why people don't change. What gets in the way. And that's really kind of informed a lot of my work subsequent to that.
Why don't people change?
Fear, simply put. I think, if we want to come up to the theme of my upcoming book, The 10 Permissions, and how that links to that, which is, I would end up traveling all across Africa with the same nonprofit, designing programs, doing new programs. And I kind of came to the realization that I could give people a lot of things in terms of money and skills and facts and information, but I couldn't give them permission to change, to grow, to try something new, to, as I describe it, sort of be the first or the last to do something in their families. They had to decide themselves. And each one of us has to decide ourselves. Nobody external to us can make us do something new.
Mm-hmm.
And the point for me is the reason many of us don't is because we're too afraid to kind of break with the way things have always been done. We have a real bias towards the status quo. We have a bias towards familiarity and predictability. And so when we're being asked to kind of do something new, regardless of what that is, and we've all experienced this in our own lives, we're afraid of what's that going to look like? What's that going to feel like? Will I be safe? Will I like it? Will I be relevant? Will I be competent? So I think it really takes a lot of, personal work to drive yourself through growth and change processes. And frankly, most of us aren't really prepared for that. We're not supported for that. We're supported to really do what's always been done, if you will.
Stay in the status quo.
Yeah.
Yep. And so is that basically now, what do you do? What group of people are you mainly helping with, I guess, all kinds of different kinds of change, actually. So tell us a little bit more about your business, Jillian.
Yeah. So the 10 permissions and all the support that I provide around that is really about primarily helping younger people. So my primary target, when I say younger, it's relative, but I would say sort of 18 to 30-year-olds,
Yep.
people who've got a lot of runway in front of them, to drive their own, paths, to really design their own paths in a very disruptive world. So I feel like we're going through really profound social change right now, cultural change, political change. Most people that I know feel really overwhelmed. And as I just described, kind of, like having to understand so many things, make sense of stuff. And I think what we're being called upon to do is to, break with the past in many ways, to accept the fact that the way forward isn't going to look like the past, and AI is only accelerating and deepening that sense of, okay, my life is not going to look like my parents. My career is not going to look like my parents. And it might look nothing like I expected it to, sort of. So I need to think very differently about how I'm going to find my way forward in this world. And, coming back to what I was just saying, I think for a lot of younger people, that feels strange. It's like I hear it all the time from people who are like, they're not where they expect to be, or their life doesn't look the way they think it should. They're not moving through linear, sort of seamless lives the way that a generation or two ago people did. And I think my aim is to support people to do that better. I think we are being called upon to be so much more adaptive, so much more creative about the way that we live our lives. And we weren't really trained to be that. So my work around the 10 permissions is sort of helping people, using my language, give themselves permission to create lives for themselves that, are relevant to now, that serve them and suit this moment. And that's not easy. It requires an ability to kind of manage change and make change in your life, that for a lot of people makes them really uncomfortable. So yeah, I kind of describe it as like personal change management, which to me is a really essential skill and capability right now. And yeah, that's what I think we need in order to thrive over the next decade. Is a lot of people are going to be challenged, to figure out how to find their way forward in this world.
That's cool. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, obviously reach out to Jillian specifically and check out her book and all the things. Like I said, which will all be in the show notes. So you went over there, you started working. I'm guessing you met your husband and now you have kids over there. Is that
I actually met my husband in London.
Oh wow.
After I'd left here. Yeah, I left
So
at a
you said you
very,
traveled a lot.
I did. And I left when I spent a decade in this part of the world, left when I was 30. I have to be honest, I was very kind of burnt out and looking for a change, moved to London and met my South African husband there. So it was pretty clear
He's
to
from
me
there.
that
That's hilarious.
all roads were leading me back to South Africa. So yeah, and now we have two kids and we're here. And yeah, I really consider myself, it sounds a little cliche, but a global citizen. I've got feet in a number of different places and family, obviously still in the States. So um, yeah, I feel like I kind of take inspiration and connection from all sorts of different places.
That's cool. How long were you in London for?
Also a decade. My kids were both born there.
Okay. So
Yeah,
your
eventually.
husband was working there then also.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. And what did you do there? Like same kind of line of work, or did you completely change also?
No, I was doing sort of organizational consulting from there. So I was a freelance consultant, mostly to nonprofits. So I'd left, this part of the world and started to just do, again, a lot of strategy, leadership, organizational change work. In the year before my son was born, I made 14, long haul trips from London all over the world as part of my consulting business. And then when I had him, I just thought, I can't keep doing this. I can't maintain that and kind of be the kind of mom that I personally wanted to be. So I stopped working for quite a while and, eventually found my way back to it.
And here you are. That's so cool. I love it. And then you eventually
Yeah,
found your guys' way back to South Africa at the same time.
we did.
So,
It was a difficult choice in many ways, but it was also one that we both felt pretty solid about in terms of the way we could raise them here. They just grew up very much with a feet on the ground, lots of time outside, close family kind of setup, and that was really what we wanted for them. So it just made sense for us.
how old were your boys whenever you moved back to South Africa? Curious.
My oldest son was 4, and my youngest one was 1 and a little 1.5. So
Good
yeah,
time to do it. So yeah.
yeah, great
And
time.
now how old are they now?
They are 17 and 14.
Okay. And do you see that they
Crazy.
have the same, like, leave the country? Do they have that? I'm curious. Like, or are they more like the opposite of you again? Like, are they more like you or more?
I
I mean, it sounds like
so
your
that
husband's the same way because he was in London, so he's already a traveler too. Um,
Yeah, they definitely have a sense that, they've got multiple passports. There's a term for them, which is like third country kids or something. It's kids whose identities are a blend of a number of different places. So I think they identify, as being so many things, and they feel at home in a variety of different places. I am equally curious as to where they will decide to go next and where they will decide to stay. I'm really not sure. I do think, younger people now they have such access to the world via, the internet, that there isn't, for me, there was little way to access the bigger world than to physically go out and see it. Whereas I think now kids can kind of draw from so many different inspirations and influences and, cultural trends and things just online. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see where they choose to go.
I love that. So cool. And then you're going to be on to the next phase of your life too, which is going to be another change.
I will. That is true, and that's what I'm gearing up for now. So I hope I got the timing right. We'll see.
Yeah, that's so cool. So if someone was looking, so someone came to you and they're, interested in, or they're looking at change, I don't know exactly how they would be approaching that. But they're looking at change. What are some things, is it because you're talking specifically more younger people, 30 and under?
Mhm.
What are some things that you would say you would do the same or would do differently? Like maybe there's some, I don't know if the fail safe, there's no such a thing, but like, what are some things like sometimes I think people change and they don't think and it goes really bad. So what are some
Hmm.
ways that you've found over the years, you've had a lot of change and now you teach on this, basically coach on
Yeah.
it, that
Mm.
you know what I'm trying to say, that people can do
Sure.
to make sure that when they change, the world doesn't fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, I even say that don't blow up your life. Like, I think we very quickly kind of bring ourselves up to really what I call high consequence choices. It's job, it's family, it's career, it's partners, it's geography. These are big, big, big things. And I think, quite honestly, a lot of us have so much more scope than we imagine within the context of our existing lives
Mm,
to start to, first of all, as I'm talking about, kind of develop a capability to manage change and make change. So, I think when we try and make these big changes, we're putting a lot of stock in that one choice to,
mhm,
radically transform our lives. And then we get to that, whatever it is, new city, new job, new partner. And guess what? We're the same person. We've just changed the furniture around.
mhm,
So I would encourage people to kind of spend some time with themselves, on themselves, before they start to make choices, and hoping that, changing their environment or their landscape is going to change their lives. By that, I don't mean sitting around and meditating and thinking. I'm a huge proponent of, really actively exploring what's available to you in your existing life and exposing yourself to new things. One of the things I talk about a lot is you can't think your way into a new way of being. You've got to act your way into it. So I really would encourage people to, don't quit your day job, don't do anything, but start using your weekends better, for instance, to go out and explore new things, meet new people, put yourself into different and fresh sets of circumstances that really expand your reference points, make you look at yourself maybe a little bit differently, teach you something new. Um, those things are really valuable, and they don't cost your life, and they don't, run a high risk of shifting things dramatically for you. And in that, the way I describe it, you're kind of developing a little bit of a capacity to try new things, be open and curious to what's possible. All of these are really useful foundational skills, and you're kind of driving your own learning. And for me, that's really important. We've got to see ourselves as lifetime learners. And so start learning just from within the context of your existing life and allow some of that to inform what you want to do next, where you want to go next. Um, but actively explore what's available to you within this context of your current life and see how it starts to expand and shape your sense of what's possible. That would be my advice.
Cool. I love that. Such good advice. I love it. In wrapping up, I always ask three final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So, first and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Oh, go out and explore. I just said it, but I'm going to say it again. I think a lot of people sort of think that purpose is this magical thing that comes down and you discover it through some deep introspection. To me, one purpose is changes, it shifts. I would say lowercase p, not uppercase p. And it emerges out of experience. It doesn't emerge out of some, grand insight. So just what I said, if you don't have a sense of it, go out and put yourself into situations that interest you, situations that excite you, situations that stimulate you, and allow that to help inform your own growing sense of what do I want to do? Like, take the temperature right down and just start to kind of focus on what you want, put yourself in those situations, and then let that inform your evolving and always adapting sense of purpose.
That's cool. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Oh my gosh. Um, a favorite quote. Um, what a good question. God, my menopausal brain is going completely blank at the moment. Um, can I quote myself?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, um, I'm gonna, sorry, this might not be what you're looking for, but I tell people to kind of look at their life through an I can versus I am lens. So I want you to go out into the world saying I can versus I am, because for me, that sense of sort of flexible capability is so much more useful than a sense of fixed identity. So I can versus I am.
Love that. Third and final question is if someone's looking, or sorry, what would be something you'd want on your gravestone? A sentence or a word? What would you want on your gravestone?
Mm. Yeah. She gave herself permission to live the life that she wanted.
I love that. All right, you run into someone in the coffee shop and they're like, hey, Jillian, we listened to that, learning about change, inspired by it, all the stuff we just went through. What's something, though, that we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
I think we talked around this, but I guess to end with sort of the simple phrase of it's okay. um, I think a lot of people, as I referenced earlier, feel right now like, oh my gosh, my life isn't okay. I'm not fitting the mold for whatever age I am or whatever place I am in my life. And they're maybe facing big change. And I guess just to say, you know, it's okay. Um, because the judgment and the fear and the anxiety that you attach to a set of circumstances in your life often limits your ability to find your way through it. So, you know, accept the fact that the lives that we used to, you described abnormal, like abnormal lives are now normal. And they don't all look like the playbook that your parents had. And sort of relax and allow yourself to kind of find your way forward one step at a time.
Love that. Guys, make sure to share this. Reach out to Jillian, check out her book, all the things. If we can go out there, if we can help one person or one starfish at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Jillian.
Thank you so much, Angela. It was such a pleasure.